Welcome to our world, Lepetra, our three-ringed planet. See, there's these three artificially made superstructures that encircle our world. They are in our sky all day, all night, always. There's the sky, the sun, the stars, the rings. They have their own orbit and move around the planet. They also create artificial sunlight, seamlessly prevent daily eclipses from happening. The three rings are known to some as the Archenfold or the Eyes of Triaxium. Some people just call them the God Pillars. But mostly people these days, they call them the Arcs. It's an acronym for their more proper name, the Advanced Robotic Control System. Well, that's what they call them anyway. The robots here. Well, we don't call them robots either. They're known as the constructs. See, the constructs are a collective of very advanced robotic entities that have been our oppressors here since the beginning of any of our known civilizations. That is to say, they've always been here. They have some kind of hive mind or some kind of incredible neural communication system. Either way, they can communicate with each other very rapidly and efficiently. The constructs, well, they control the arcs. The arcs controls the constructs, but that just might be semantics. Either way, they're the ones who truly control Lepetra. It's impossible to leave the surface to investigate the arcs any further. No one's achieved this, not to my knowledge anyway. Their defense systems would obliterate anyone who attempted it. I've seen it. The constructs are very effective. But what are they really? They're a kind of advanced robots, right? But there's something more about them. Well, their most distinctive mechanism that sets them apart from typical autonomous machines is their power source. We call it a hyperdrift energy matrix, or an HDEM for short. Drift is the subspace dimension running parallel with the material plane. The drift, I've read, is how most galactic travel is accomplished. A typical drift drive will take a ship into the drift plane itself to find a quicker path to a point on the material plane. Now, these HDEMs also have access to the drift somehow, but they also contain pieces of the drift plane itself brought into the material plane. What they exactly do with it or how it stays stable, well, we really don't know. What we do know is that if the HDEM itself is destroyed, there's nothing left of the construct. It can't rebuild itself. It's gone for good. Some of this is theory, but people have been studying these HDEMs in detail for decades now, and in greater detail every passing year. It's a popular position based on Rachel Feynman's papers on drift theory. There's other studies out there, but that's whom I'm most familiar with. But I'm getting a little carried away, right? These constructs are formidable, and if you come across any, you'll see why. They control the skies, the oceans, the earth, everything in between. They use starships to ferry robotic troops and workers and equipment down from the arcs. They also harness material transporters, like teleportation, and they use them well. With all this power and all this technology, they've mostly leave us alone. We started building farms and then towns, cities. We have culture too, artists, writers, everything, right? We have power plants and factories. We just can't get too carried away. They never let us get too out of their control. Once our technology has reached too far, it's destroyed, along with any of those involved. We've been in kind of a technological limbo for centuries. Our greatest minds working on theories in secret. We're always under house arrest, but we've advanced pretty far too, and a lot of times we use the constructs for help. See, they leave behind like equipment, ships, and computer parts. They really do leave us alone, and we've managed to take advantage of it, but stay cautious. They never seem to doubt their extraordinary superiority over us. They don't see us as a threat. And if we break any of their rules, whether we know that rule or not, they're programmed to retaliate. We've learned a few of those, obviously, right? If we gather and we discuss rebellion or something, they come and they silence us. If we physically provoke a construct, well, they'll just straight up murder us. If we were to launch any of our own starships, well, they would obliterate us and anything with it. They are dreadful and dangerous. But they're not all battle-class robots. Some of them are pilots or even bulldozers. See, they maintain some buildings and guard posts, waste facilities, and power stations, and some infrastructure, though they mostly get around with the material transportation. That is to say, right, the teleportation. They're strange, to say the least, and they're worshipped by some, right, and obeyed by most of us. They have to be. That is until recently in our history. See, about 4 decades ago, something on the planet launched itself at the arcs and created what we call the fracture. It's hard to see with the naked eye, but it's on the furthest ring. A section of the arcs has been completely destroyed, and it changed everything. Not at first though, over time. Since that day, 41 years ago, there's only been a few transports from the arcs, not even close to the numbers we saw prior. That isn't to say we won or anything, but something has gone wrong with them. They just don't operate like they used to. At least now they don't, decades after that day. They don't all repair themselves like they used to, and they all don't seem to respond to their previous hive mind either. They still communicate somehow, but it seems more conventional now. Requires time and effort on their part. It's like they've been collectively lobotomized or something. And now they operate independent from each other, but still following their same system parameters. Some divisions of them seem pretty intact though, following some kind of chain of command. Some are on some sort of autopilot, so if they were on guard duty before, they still guard. If they were pilots, they still fly around. If they were reclamators, they still reclaim assets. Some though, just lay dormant, decaying to the effects of exposure. The people of Lepetra since that day have destroyed many constructs. We've dismantled them, studied them, and they've provided us with incredible knowledge. They have massive databases, and we've recovered pieces of their knowledge, as well as parts of forgotten culture and ideas. This lost knowledge mentions spaceflight and distant worlds as if they really existed. This information is spread through the world, all levels of society, but still, many reject it. They fear the return of our oppressors with their full faculties and a massive retaliation in response to our heresy. But we have what might be our only chance to fight back, but it's still not as easy as all that. See, we're prisoners on the planet, but we're also prisoners in something called the sector. And right now, you live in sector 7X6B, or we like to call it Sixburg. And right now, we're not leaving it. See, as large as these sectors are, holding entire societies within them, we are still in a prison, and we call the bars of our cage bio-lock fields. They prevent certain biological matter that gets detected on the cellular level somehow from passing through. It kills you, then vaporizes whatever's left. It's what keeps us from exploring the arcs too, and the rest of the planet. It blocks communication as well, except by more conventional means. Meaning like, we could take an autonomous machine and drive it through the field with a message, and it can be received by an adjacent sector. So, in this way, we plan to communicate with our neighbors, at least the ones that seem to have something to say. I know, this is all a bit much, right? But you all genuinely seem to be from somewhere else. And it's amazing to think that me, out of all the mixed up people on this world, I'm the one to find you. Well, listen. I've devised a way off this world, as I'm sure a few others have too, but it requires that the bio-lock field be shut down, and I'm not sure how to do that, or if it can even be done. But if someone ever does find a way, I might be able to build a starship. I found in one of the databases an intact blueprint for a supply class freighter, but not only that, I have most of its hull already built from salvage parts from the heap. Oh, that's right, the heap. Well, alright. You guys were found dreaming your years away, right? in what has to be the most massive machine reclamation site on the planet. It's a giant dump, right? It stretches for over 100 miles. It's known mainly as the Heap. It's still heavily guarded by some of the most deadly constructs that I can think of. But pickers like myself find that with a little stealth and a little courage, you can get in and get out with some valuable stuff. And I've been doing it for quite successfully for many years now. Many others come in large raiding parties from the cities, only to be quickly exterminated. You have to be quick, smart, and operate in a small group if you want to get anything valuable from the Heap and keep your life at the same time. There are many pickers now, especially lately, but not all are as amiable as myself, so be warned. You know, I think I've hit you with a lot. Feel free to look at these maps I have, right? And if you have any questions, go ahead, you can ask me. But I think you should get some rest. I'm sure your cryo sleep has fatigued you a lot. But if you guys are up to it, I could take you to the cliffs not far from here, and I could show you the Heap itself. You'll probably get a glimpse of a construct or two, you know, from a safe distance. I have an optic viewer. It'll be easy. Then maybe you guys can think of what it is you want to do here. If you choose, you can help me. Alright, I can try and build this starship. I just need help collecting a few parts. I need a nanomatrix processor, a small supply of quantum logic chips, a strand of biocognitive hyperthreading, and a biosynaptic processing relay, or at least the plans to make one. If I get all that, I can give you a ship in a few working weeks. If any of you are better pilots than myself, that'd be helpful too. You know, as long as you agree to take me off this wretched rock. But enough of all this. You need more food, water, rest. We can talk after. If I said too much, just ask me again. I'll do my best. I'll let you know what I can. Well, like I said, welcome to Lepetra.